Before we move on and design the cells for our collection views and for our table view, since the top part here is standard, there are no extra user interface design we need to do. What I want to do is to try and set this top area before we move on to the rest. So let's write a function in our weather view that will take our current weather information and complete this information here we need to display our weather. So inside our weather view.swift file, on top, let's go before our inits. I'm going to put a mark and call these variables. And here I need an instance of a current weather, our class in our model that we have. So we can use this in order to display our information. So we say var current weather, and this is going to be type of current weather and exclamatory mark here, because we are for sure we are going to have this, so we promise our compiler here that we are going to provide with our current weather. Let's go down, and what we are going to do is to write a function to actually display, so take an instance of our current weather, which we are going to provide to our weather view. So to take this current weather, which has all these nice parameters to it, and these are the getters, and set the table, set our view so we can see the information about our current weather. So let's go underneath here, and I'm going to write a private function, and let's call this one setup current weather. So the first thing we have here is the city name, then date, temperature, and weather info. So let's start from the city name. So we have our city name label.text parameter. We're going to set this, and now I can access my current weather that we just put on top, and we're going to access the city, which is a string. Then I'm going to access my date label, and let's set the text parameter, and this is equals to, and what we want to do is to have like today word before we put the date. So we say today, so our user sees that it's today. Let's put comma, and we need to get date. So let's see how it looks like on my ready application. I think I need to set the location to Apple. Yeah, it's set. Okay, so it says today, and it's March 7. So you can see that it's not a long date, so it's kind of a short format of our date, but our current weather has a date parameter. So if I just say string interpolation here, and if I put like current weather dot date, which is, you can see, a date format, what we can do is to access our date, so we can get different format out of it. Instead of the long date, we can get just the month and the number of the day. So in order to do this, we can create an extension of our date. So let's do that. I'm going to just select one file here on top, Command N to create a new Swift file. I'm going to call these extensions. Let's hit enter. And before we proceed, actually I want to show you that if I say, let's say current date dot date and then dot let's say short date. There is no such thing here to provide us. But once we do our extensions, we will be able to do whatever we want with our date. So how we create an extension? We just say extension. Then we tell what extension we want to do. So we want to extend our date. And now we can declare the functions, extra functions from our date. So I say func, and what we want is a short date. So I call it short date. You can call it whatever you want, just make sure it means something. So we want it to return a string. So the short, in order to create a short date, we need to use a date formatter. So we are going to format our date object and return different format of date. So we create a date formatter. And this is going to be equal to date formatter. So once we initialize a date formatter, we can set the specific date format we want. So we say date formatter.date format is equals, and here we specify how our date should look. So 3M is short name of the month, and the D is the number of the day. You can check other options what you can have here on Apple website. Just search like date format and you will get all the options you can provide here. Once we get the date format, we need to return it. So we say, because as you can see here, we promised that we are going to return a string, and our compiler is complaining that we didn't return anything. So we say return, and we're going to get our date formatter. Then we are going to access a function string from date, and it's going to be self. So we use the date object itself. So let's see if this works. I'm going to say Command P just to build. So our compiler knows that we have an extra function with our date. So if I come here and then put a dot here and say short date, now you can see we have a function that will return a string there. So this will be today, and then we will have a short date there. Next, we are going to say whether info label.text is equals, and we access our current weather dot weather. Where is it? Current weather dot weather type, I think we call it. Let's just jump there and see which one is it. Jump to definition, and this is, yeah, weather type, current temp. Yeah, that's the weather type we need. So we say current weather type. And the last thing is left is our temperature. So I'm going to put it here and say temp. Let's see what we have here. Oh, I'm missing a M there. So let's refactor this. And I'm going to call this temp label. And I think we may have an issue with this, but let's finish the code here. Temp label dot text is equals, and then again we are going to access our current weather, and we get our current temp, which you can see it returns a double. But since we want to set our text parameter, this will not work, because we cannot set a text parameter to be double, and it's complaining, and you can check this out. So we can use our string interpolation here. And this way we have our double. All right, so we have this function. Let me just quickly check if my renaming of the label here will cause any problem. So I'm selecting it and checking the connection inspector, and you can see it was updated here when we did a refactoring and rename. So I think we should be okay. So let's get back here and check our code one more time. So setup current weather is set correctly, and we can actually test it in our next lecture.